The Western Wall. Jerusalem, 31 degrees, 77 minutes, 67 seconds north, 35 degrees, 23 minutes, 45 seconds east. You're looking at the last standing remnant of the Second Temple's retaining wall built by Herod the Great starting in 19 BC. This isn't the temple itself. That was destroyed by Romans in 70 AD, exactly as Jesus predicted in Matthew 24:2. Not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. The wall stands 62 feet high today, but that's only half the story. Archaeologists discovered another 40 feet of original wall underground. You're seeing 7 visible courses of massive Herodian stones, some weighing 600 tons. Modern cranes can't lift them, yet 2,000 years ago workers quarried, transported, and positioned them without machinery. Each stone fits so precisely you can't slide paper between joints. But here's what makes this location unique. It's called the Wailing Wall because for centuries, Jews gathered here to mourn the temple's destruction. Millions of prayer notes, tiny papers stuffed between stones, fill the cracks. Twice a year, workers remove them and bury them on the Mount of Olives. The wall has absorbed 2 millennia of prayers. Luke 21:24 prophesied Jerusalem would be trampled on by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. This wall witnessed that trampling and survived. 2. Church of the Holy Sepulchre, Jerusalem. 31 degrees 77 minutes, 84 seconds north, 35 degrees 22 minutes, 96 seconds east. Built in 335 AD by Constantine's mother Helena, this church encompasses what tradition identifies as Golgotha, the site of Jesus' crucifixion, and the tomb where he was buried. John 1941 specifies, "At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden, a new tomb." Inside, you'll find the edicule, a small shrine housing the burial cave. Limestone benches where a body would have laid still exist. In 2016, archaeologists opened the tomb for the first time in centuries and found the original limestone burial bed intact, exactly as described in the Gospels. Carbon dating of mortar suggests the tomb dates to the 4th century AD shrine construction, but the limestone bed beneath is far older, consistent with 1st century Jewish burial practices. But here's the controversy. A competing site called the Garden Tomb, discovered in 1867, also claims authenticity. Archaeological evidence actually favors the Holy Sepulchre. It's inside the current Old City walls, but in Jesus' time, it was outside the city, exactly where executions occurred per Hebrews 13:12. Jesus also suffered outside the city gate. Jerusalem's walls expanded after 70 AD, incorporating the site. 6 different Christian denominations share control of the church today: Greek Orthodox, Catholic, Armenian, Coptic, Syrian, and Ethiopian. They follow a complex schedule called the status quo, established in 1852, dictating who controls which area at which times. A Muslim family holds the only key. 3. Garden of Gethsemane, Jerusalem, 31 degrees, 77 minutes, 94 seconds north, 35 degrees, 23 minutes, 96 seconds east, across the Kidron Valley from Jerusalem's Old City at the foot of the Mount of Olives. Gethsemane means oil press in Aramaic. This was an olive grove where Jesus prayed before his arrest. Matthew 26:36. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. 8 ancient olive trees still grow here. Genetic testing in 2012 dated 3 of them to the 12th century, but all 8 share identical DNA, meaning they're clones from a parent tree. Olive trees can regenerate from roots even after the trunk dies. These trees could be genetic descendants of the original trees Jesus prayed beneath. Romans destroyed every tree around Jerusalem in 70 AD during the siege, but roots survive underground and re-sprout. The Church of All Nations, built 1919 to 1924, preserves the Rock of Agony, where tradition says Jesus prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me," in Luke 22:42. You can touch the rock. The church's mosaic floor incorporates sections from a 4th century Byzantine church and a 12th century Crusader church, both built over the same site. 3 generations of churches, same rock, same prayer location. 4. Pool of Bethesda, Jerusalem, 31 degrees 78 minutes 3 seconds north, 35 degrees 23 minutes 54 seconds east. For centuries, scholars debated whether this pool even existed. John 5:2 describes it precisely. Now there is in Jerusalem near the Sheep Gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Critics said John invented the details. Then, in the 1870s, archaeologists excavating near St. Anne's Church discovered it. 2 large pools, one 50 by 200 feet, another 50 by 300 feet, separated by a wall, creating 5 sections exactly as John described. Roman period steps descending into the water still exist. You can walk down them. This is where Jesus healed the paralytic who'd waited 38 years, telling him in John 5:8, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." But here's the archaeological jackpot. A fresco found in the pool area depicts an angel troubling the water, matching John 5:4, which explains sick people waited for the water to be stirred by an angel, believing the first person in would be healed. The pool was a healing shrine. Recent excavations found hundreds of offerings and medical implements left by pilgrims seeking healing. Jesus chose this location deliberately, the ultimate healing shrine, to demonstrate his power over physical infirmity. 5. Mount of Olives, Jerusalem. 31 degrees 77 minutes 84 seconds north, 35 degrees 24 minutes 19 seconds east. Rising 2,710 feet above sea level, this limestone ridge overlooks Jerusalem's Temple Mount from the east. Zechariah 14:4 prophesies, "On that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem." This is where Jesus ascended to heaven in Acts 1:9-12. He was taken up before their very eyes. Then the apostles returned to Jerusalem from the hill called the Mount of Olives. The world's oldest continuously used Jewish cemetery covers the western slope, an estimated 150,000 graves dating back 3,000 years. Why here? Jewish tradition holds that the Messiah will enter Jerusalem through the eastern gate, currently sealed, and resurrection will begin at the Mount of Olives. That's why being buried here means first in line. At the summit stands the Chapel of the Ascension, built over the traditional spot where Jesus ascended. Inside, a stone bears what tradition claims is Jesus' footprint. The site has been controlled by Muslims since 1187, but Christians can visit. Luke 24:50 says Jesus led them out to the vicinity of Bethany and lifted up his hands and blessed them. Bethany sits on the eastern slope of the Mount of Olives, making the location geographically consistent. 6. Sea of Galilee, northern Israel. 32 degrees 81 minutes 67 seconds north, 35 degrees 58 minutes 33 seconds east. Technically a freshwater lake, the Kinneret, measuring 13 miles long and 8 miles wide. The lowest freshwater lake on Earth at 686 feet below sea level. This is where Jesus walked on water, Matthew 14:25, calmed the storm, Mark 4:39, and called his first disciples, "Come, follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people," Matthew 4:19. In 1986, severe drought lowered water levels, revealing a fishing boat buried in mud. The Jesus boat, dated to the 1st century AD through carbon-14 testing and pottery analysis, measures 27 feet long and 7.5 feet wide. It's the exact type of boat Jesus and the disciples used. You can see it at the Yigal Allon Museum in Kibbutz Ginosar. Oak and cedar planks, 12 mortise and tenon joints, holds 13 people. Mark 4:36 mentions other boats accompanying Jesus. This is one of them. 7 different species of fish inhabit the lake, including St. Peter's fish, tilapia, supposedly the species Peter caught with a coin in its mouth, Matthew 17:27. Commercial fishing still operates here using methods unchanged in 2,000 years, casting nets from boats exactly as Peter did. 7. Capernaum, northern shore of Sea of Galilee, 32 degrees 88 minutes 8 seconds north, 35 degrees 57 minutes 33 seconds east. Jesus' ministry headquarters, Matthew 4:13 records. Leaving Nazareth, he went and lived in Capernaum. Mark 2:1 calls it his own town. This is where he healed the centurion's servant, Matthew 8:5-13. Peter's mother-in-law, Mark 1:29-31, and the paralytic lowered through the roof, Mark 2:1-12. Excavations uncovered a 4th century synagogue built directly over a 1st century black basalt synagogue, the one where Jesus taught. Luke 7:5 mentions the centurion built our synagogue. You're looking at it. Limestone columns, ornate carvings, Hebrew inscriptions. The Israeli government partially reconstructed it in 1981. Beneath the Franciscan Church of St. Peter, archaeologists found a house dating to the 1st century BC. Floor inscriptions in Greek, Aramaic, and Syriac identify it as Peter's house. Graffiti reads, "Lord Jesus Christ help" and "Christ have mercy." This was venerated as Peter's home by 2nd century Christians. Mark 1:29 says, "They went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew." You can see the foundation through the church's glass floor. 8. Nazareth, Galilee. 32 degrees, 70 minutes, 55 seconds north, 35 degrees, 29 minutes, 78 seconds east, where Jesus grew up. Matthew 2:23. He went and lived in a town called Nazareth, a small village of maybe 400 people in the 1st century. So insignificant that Nathanael asked in John 1:46, "Nazareth, can anything good come from there?" The Church of the Annunciation, built 1969, covers the traditional site where the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary in Luke 1:26-38. Excavations beneath it revealed a 1st century house carved into limestone bedrock, typical of Nazareth's ancient dwellings. An ancient graffiti inscription found nearby reads, "Hail Mary," showing early Christian veneration of the site. In 2009, archaeologists discovered the first 1st century house ever excavated in Nazareth, a simple stone and mortar dwelling with a courtyard, consistent with Luke 2:4's description of Joseph as a tekton, craftsman, carpenter. The house includes a cistern and limestone vessels, indicating Jewish occupancy. This is the Nazareth Jesus knew: small, rural, insignificant. His 30 years here prepared him for 3 years that changed everything. 9. Bethlehem, West Bank. 31 degrees, 70 minutes, 54 seconds north, 35 degrees, 20 minutes, 24 seconds east, 5 miles south of Jerusalem. Micah 5:2 prophesied 700 years before Jesus' birth. "But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel." Matthew 2:1 fulfills it. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea. The Church of the Nativity, built 327 AD, making it one of Christianity's oldest churches, marks the traditional birthplace. Beneath the altar, a 14-point silver star marks the exact spot. Hic de Virgin Maria Jesus Christus natus est. Here Jesus Christ was born of the Virgin Mary. You descend through marble steps to the grotto, a cave where tradition says Mary gave birth. But here's the historical accuracy. 1st century Jewish homes often incorporated caves as lower levels for animals. Luke 2:7 says Mary placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available. Not an outdoor stable, a house's lower level where animals sheltered. The cave beneath the church fits this description. Jerome translated the Vulgate Bible here in the 4th century, living in a cave adjacent to Jesus' birthplace. You can visit his cave too. 10. Jericho, West Bank. 31 degrees, 85 minutes, 57 seconds north, 35 degrees, 46 minutes, 14 seconds east. The world's oldest continuously inhabited city, 11,000 years of occupation. Archaeological tell rising 70 feet high, layer upon layer of ancient civilizations. This is where Joshua 6:20 records, "The wall collapsed, so everyone charged straight in, and they took the city." British archaeologist Kathleen Kenyon excavated Jericho 1952 to 1958 and found massive stone walls from the Bronze Age. While she dated them earlier, re-examination of the pottery dates the destruction to around 1400 BC, exactly when Joshua's conquest occurred. Portions collapsed outward and downward, creating ramps of rubble. Joshua 6:20 says, "Everyone charged straight in." You can't do that with walls standing. The collapsed walls created entry points. Kenyon also found storage jars full of grain, indicating the city fell quickly in springtime during harvest, exactly as Joshua describes. Modern Jericho, 686 feet below sea level, the lowest city on Earth, sits near ancient ruins. You can visit Tel es Sultan and see the excavated walls. This is also where Jesus healed blind Bartimaeus, Mark 10:46-52, and where Zacchaeus climbed a sycamore tree, Luke 19:1-10. That species of tree, Ficus sycamoris, still grows throughout Jericho. 11. Mount Sinai, Egypt, 28 degrees 53 minutes 92 seconds north, 33 degrees 97 minutes 50 seconds east, called Jebel Musa, Moses Mountain in Arabic, rising 7,497 feet. Exodus 19:20. The Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top. This is where God gave the 10 Commandments. The traditional site has been identified here since at least the 4th century AD. St. Catherine's Monastery, built 527 AD by Emperor Justinian, sits at the mountain's base. It's the world's oldest continuously operating Christian monastery, never destroyed or closed in 1,500 years. The monastery's library contains the second largest collection of ancient manuscripts after the Vatican, 3,300 books and scrolls, including the Codex Sinaiticus, 4th century, one of the oldest complete New Testament manuscripts. Inside the monastery, the Chapel of the Burning Bush marks where Exodus 3:2 records. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. A living bush, supposedly a descendant of the original, grows behind the chapel. Whether this exact mountain is the Mount Sinai remains debated. Some scholars suggest Mount Karkam or mountains in Saudi Arabia, but St. Catherine's location has 1,700 years of unbroken tradition. 12. Dead Sea, Israel-Jordan border. 31 degrees 55 minutes 90 seconds north, 35 degrees 47 minutes 32 seconds east. The lowest point on Earth's surface, 1,410 feet below sea level. Salt concentration reaches 34%, 10 times saltier than oceans. Nothing lives in it, hence Dead Sea. Ezekiel 47:8 prophesies. When it empties into the sea, the salty water there becomes fresh. The Dead Sea is shrinking, water level dropping 3 feet per year. It's 1,000 feet lower than in biblical times. But here's what makes it biblically significant. This is the location of Sodom and Gomorrah, Genesis 19:24-25. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah. Archaeological evidence suggests 5 ancient cities once existed at the southern end, destroyed catastrophically around 19 BC. Sulfur balls have been found in the area, unusual geological formations consistent with volcanic activity. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered 1947 to 1956 in 11 caves at Qumran on the northwestern shore, include the oldest known biblical manuscripts, dating 300 BC to 100 AD. The dry, mineral-rich environment preserved them for 2,000 years. You can visit the caves at Qumran National Park and see where shepherds discovered clay jars containing Isaiah scrolls, Psalms, and community documents from the Essence. The scrolls proved the Old Testament text has been transmitted accurately for 2 millennia. 13. Jordan River Baptism Site, Al-Maghtas, Jordan. 31 degrees, 83 minutes, 78 seconds north, 35 degrees, 54 minutes, 82 seconds east. Called Bethany Beyond the Jordan in John 1:28. This is where John the Baptist baptized Jesus, Matthew 3:13. Then Jesus came from Galilee to the Jordan to be baptized by John. Archaeologists identified the site in 1996, excavating remains of Byzantine churches, baptismal pools, and monks' caves from the 5th to 7th centuries, all built around a spot venerated as Jesus' baptism location. The Jordan River here is just 30 feet wide. You can throw a stone across it. Brown, muddy water flowing slowly south toward the Dead Sea. Not impressive, but this is ground zero for Christianity's launch. Mark 1:10 records. Just as Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven being torn open, and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. The site was mined during Israel-Jordan conflicts and closed to visitors until the 1994 peace treaty. Now you can wade into the same water where Jesus stood. Pilgrims from around the world get baptized here daily. White robes, full immersion, same river, same act, same symbolism of death and resurrection that Romans 6:4 describes. We were therefore buried with him through baptism into death. 14. Damascus Road, Syria. Ancient road from Jerusalem to Damascus, approximately 135 miles. Acts 9:3. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. Saul of Tarsus, persecutor of Christians, encountered the risen Jesus on this road and became Paul the Apostle. The exact location is unknown, but tradition identifies a site about 3 miles from Damascus's old city. A small chapel marks the spot. What is known, Damascus is one of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities, dating back 5,000 years. The street called Straight mentioned in Acts 9:11, where Ananias found Paul, still exists as Bob Sharkey Street running east-west through Damascus's old city. You can walk it. The street is Roman, built around 100 AD, but follows the path of an earlier street from Paul's time. The house of Judas, where Paul stayed, Acts 9:11, hasn't been identified, but the traditional site of Ananias' house is now St. Ananias Chapel underground, dating to the 1st century. Whether these exact locations are accurate matters less than this. Damascus exists. The road exists. Paul's transformation was so complete that he planted churches across the Roman Empire and wrote half the New Testament. Something happened on that road. 15. Megiddo, northern Israel. 32 degrees, 58 minutes, 50 seconds north, 35 degrees, 18 minutes, 39 seconds east. Tel Megiddo rises 60 feet high, containing 26 layers of ancient cities dating back 5,000 years. This strategic location controlled the Via Maris, the ancient highway connecting Egypt to Mesopotamia, making it one of history's most fought-over locations. Archaeologists have identified at least 30 battles fought here. Revelation 16:16 prophesies the final battle. Then they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. Armageddon literally means Har Megiddo, Mount Megiddo. The valley of Jezreel spreads below, 15 miles long, perfectly flat, big enough to assemble armies of millions. This is where the prophesied final conflict between good and evil will occur. You can climb the Tel and see excavated remains, Canaanite temples, Solomon's gates. 1 Kings 9:15 specifically mentions Solomon fortified Megiddo, massive stables housing 450 horses, and an incredible water system. A 100-foot deep shaft with a 200-foot tunnel leading to a spring outside the city walls, allowing water access during sieges. Judges 5:19 mentions, "The kings came and fought at Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo." You're standing where kings fought, where Solomon built, where prophecy says history will end. Notice what these 15 locations prove. The Bible isn't mythology set in fictional places. It's history set in verifiable geography. You can GPS every location, walk the ground, touch the stones. Archaeological evidence confirms the accounts. These places exist. They've survived empires, earthquakes, wars, and time itself. Which landmark shocked you most? Drop it in the comments and hit subscribe.